Should have warned me before, Adam.
All right, we're all good. Welcome everyone to the first council meeting for 2026, to those in the chamber and to those streaming online. Our meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Gunditj Chamara, Tapwarong, Jadwa Jali and Buwandig people. I'd like to pay our respects to elders past and present and the elders from other communities who may be here today. Before we get into a standard meeting, I'd just like to move that council hold a minute's silence to honour the victims and all those impacted by the Bondi Beach terrorist attack. If I could have a seconder, please. Everyone's in favour. Yeah. Thank you. Please note all council meetings will be audio recorded and may be live streamed to council's social media platform, with the exception of matters identified as confidential items in the agenda. By participating in open council meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. Other than an official council recording, no video or audio recording of proceedings of council meetings will be allowed without the permission of council. Item 3, prayer. Councillor Calvano will lead the meeting in a prayer.
Almighty God, grant this council the wisdom, understanding and sincerity of the purpose for the good governance of this Shire.
Item 4, there's no apologies. I'll just note that Councillor Campbell is participating in the meeting this evening online. Item 5, confirmation of minutes. I move the recommendation that the minutes of the council meeting held on 10 December 25 be confirmed as a correct record of business transacted. If I could have a second to Councillor Calvano. Those in favour? Councillor Calvano? Yep, carried. Item 6, no declaration of interest. Item 7, there's no leave of absence. Item 8, there's no questions on notice. Item 9, there's no public deputations. Item 10, there's no petitions. Item 11, informal meetings of councillors. An informal meeting of councillors record was kept for briefing session 3rd December 25, 10 December 25 and 27 January 2026. Management reports. Item 12.1, Arbiter's report. Director Neeson.
Thank you, and through Mr Mayor, in accordance with the Local Government Act, I'm just tabling this Arbiter's report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12.2, Coleraine Flood Levy. Director Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this report before you brings forward a piece of work that has been undertaken in partnership with the community following the 2018 floods that particularly impacted the Coleraine community. Through community engagement, it was identified the need to undertake an assessment and further design development to identify what might need to be options for further consideration in terms of establishing a levy bank. This report before you identifies those options and the associated costs, seeking Council's acknowledgement of that work that has been undertaken to date, that would serve its purpose in the future in terms of consideration for future funding opportunities. The report's before you.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Calvano.
Mr Mayor, I think it's self-explanatory in the executive summary and also the discussion, self-explanatory, Mr Mayor.
You're happy for us to take the recommendation as written?
As written.
I have a seconder. Councillor Barber. Any questions of Director Scanlon? Councillor Manning.
Just two questions about the other recommendations in the report that was produced following the 2018 flood. One recommendation was that council review and adopt the draft planning controls developed to appropriately manage future development with the town. My first question is, has that been done in council's Coleraine structure plan? And the second recommendation was for council to undertake measures to increase effective flood warning times. Can you detail if council's done that yet, or what it will entail and when that will be done?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Manning. In response to your first question, yes, that has been addressed through the planning aspects in terms of the structure plan. No, we're not doing current monitoring within Coleraine, and that is the recommendation within this report that's before you. Recently, we've provided a report to Council on the Hamilton Spillway and our monitoring and the use of sensors. We would anticipate that we would apply the same methodology for monitoring and triggering those warnings, and that's the purpose of a business case for next financial year.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Director Scanlon, just further on that, would that not be a CMA responsibility for that monitoring the water levels rather than us? That's right.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Correct, Councillor Barber. Effectively, we'll continue to work with CMA in terms of specifically how that works. So not that dissimilar to the arrangement we have with the lake, and we share that responsibility. So we'll work through that with CMA and the community as well.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Manning.
Just one, whether you can answer it. It was estimated to cost $1 million back in 2019, and it's now estimated to cost $12 million. Do you know exactly what's caused that huge increase?
Difference.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Manning, primarily two reasons. The designs have been increased significantly in terms of the scale of the proposed levy. Also, there's an element of escalation within costs in that period.
No further questions? Councillor Calvano, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor, I don't wish to.
Any discussion for? Against? For? Councillor Manning?
Yeah, I'll say a few things. I think it's really important that council's followed up after the 2018 flood, and there's been significant anticipatory planning undertaken to investigate flood prevention. And this is important given Coleraine's recorded 7 significant flood events since 1870. I'd like to thank all the community members involved for their time in putting into this consultation. I think the community concerns are understandable about, the report mentions a divided community as to whether they want these levies or not. These levies will be a significant change to a major part of town and offering protection against events which are fairly infrequent yet still do occur. I think it's a really disappointing outcome when a report identifies a solution that's unaffordable and is unlikely to proceed. But with more detailed knowledge of flood behaviours that we now have, and hopefully improved flood warning times coupled with ongoing drainage asset management, hopefully damage can be reduced in any future flooding events. So thanks for the work on.
No further discussion? Councillor Calvano, anything to close?
No, Mr Mayor.
Go to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.3, property disposal. Director Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, as is a part of our ongoing review of our property and assets and aiming to establish a sustainable way forward in terms of our asset management, we put before you an additional 4 properties that we have identified as surplus to council's needs. The 4 properties are listed within this report and they're located within Leahy Street, Grosvenor Place, David Street and Elizabeth McPhee Streets in Hamilton. Many of you would be aware that we're currently out to market with a number of properties that were endorsed by council last year to be released for the market. This report seeks approval to proceed with the public notice, so it's really first phase of that process, but the report's before you. Thank you.
A mover, Councillor Manning.
Yes, I move that Council 1, as required under Section 114 of the Local Government Act 2020, give public notice by advertising for a minimum of 28 days its intention to dispose of the following 4 properties: A, 11 Lee, I'll probably say these wrong, Leahy Street, Hamilton; B, Grosvenor Place, Hamilton; C, 8 David Street, Hamilton; D, Elizabeth/McPhee Street, Hamilton. And 2, note that any submissions received as part of the engagement process will proceed to a future briefing of council for consideration prior to a final decision being made at council meeting.
And apologies to anyone on Grosvenor Place. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Henry. Any questions of Director Scanlon?
Yes.
Councillor Campbell.
I thought I'd just jump in there because obviously the Mayor can't see me straight away, but I just wanted to ask, how are we going with we've obviously got 4 properties up for sale now, how are we going with the previous 6 properties? And who's the company that we're using with the previous 6 properties?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Campbell, the properties that we have out at the moment, my apologies, I'm conscious I have my back to you, just bear with me. The properties that we have on the market at the moment are certainly generating interest, and we are working with a company that is based within the region as our sales agent. We continue to monitor that, and you will remember with the council report, the CEO was delegated with the negotiation on those properties to reach sale.
So this, I suppose my last question is, this is now the 10th property up for sale because there were 6 and 4, but we haven't sold any yet. Is that clarified?
Correct. We are getting close to a couple of sales.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Manning, you wish to speak to the motion?
Just only to say that council will gain more revenue from the payment of rates on each property compared to what we're getting now, should they be disposed. So I'm for putting these up for sale.
Discussion 4. Against? Councillor Manning, anything to close? Go to a vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.4, rescinding of asset policies. Director Scanlon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you, we seek to rescind 3 particular policies, one being the dividing fences policy, the second being naming and renaming of roads and streets policy, and the final one is the drainage headworks policy. The first 2 policies really duplicate or replicate state legislation and state process, particularly in relation to naming. So officers have really identified these as duplicating the process. Those current legislation and associated processes managed through the Office of Geographic Names actually requires local government to have input in terms of the state's review of those proposals. In addition, or the third policy that's put forward is the drainage headworks policy. This one has been superseded typically within planning applications or applicants are required to develop a stormwater management plan that's really above and beyond this current policy, and so that process addresses it. Hence, these policies are before you seeking decision. The report's before you.
Have a mover. Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the motion that council rescinds the dividing fences policy. 2, rescinds the naming of or renaming of roads and streets policy. 3, rescind the drainage headworks policy. And 4, note these changes will be communicated accordingly to staff and community. Thank you.
Seconder. Councillor Henry. Any questions of Director Scanlon? Councillor Calvano.
Just for the gallery's sake, Director, just explain duplicating processes of the dividing fences and naming of the roads. Could you please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Calvano, a typical process would be an individual, or it could even be an officer that's putting forward a proposal to rename or to name a new road. That process typically requires a submission through to the Office of Geographic Names, and they run a process whereby they do their own research and investigation in terms of the appropriateness of that name and if there's any other implications. As a part of their process, they then come back to the respective local government, council, and ask for their input. So there's an opportunity for council. Our policy just really repeated that same process, so it was really seen as superfluous. The Fences Act is a little bit different, obviously, but the process for new fences or modifying existing fences in terms of council's policy was a repeat of exactly the state process as well, so it was seen as duplicating.
Mr Mayor, just another question. So the final word is the state government, is that correct?
Correct, Councillor Calvano.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Manning.
Yeah, just picking up on the renaming process. So when it does come back to council and state government has said yes as the final thing, council can then have any power over whether that street's called that or... Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, if it's...
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Manning, that opportunity to challenge the thinking or put forward our reasoning why really is in that first part of the process where it comes back to council.
Okay.
Councillor Rainsford.
My question is that when it comes back to council, there's a suggestion of a name, rather than saying here's a street or a new set of streets in a development. What do you suggest? Does it actually come back saying we're applying to have this name, or does it come with a blank page where the council can have an input from a database of significant local names or whatever they wish to commemorate?
I'll just make the comment, Mr Mayor. Councillor Rainsford, it's actually both. So there's certainly opportunities for council to be initiating that process, if you like, in terms of representing. It might be something pertinent to the local area, heritage, etc. But it can also be, if it's come from an individual straight to the state process and it's come back to council, we can be making alternative suggestions if we feel that what is being put forward isn't pertinent to our community.
Councillor Manning.
Does council currently have a name bank of things from historical societies or our own records that are ready to go if people need to name things?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Manning, no, council doesn't currently have a name bank or anything to that effect, and you might remember recently we put the policy forward which was adopted in relation to plaques and memorials. And certainly we received community submission about the opportunity to be celebrating, various members of the community. And so the suggestion of a name bank might be an opportunity to establish a log or a register that then could be applied across various opportunities. Thank you.
Councillor Henry.
Given that we will have input and the state will also have input or the final say, at what point without a policy can we be assured that we are adhering to some sort of move towards equity of gender equitable naming and seeking to represent our local Indigenous communities as well.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that really, Councillor Henry, that really comes in the process and consistent with the legislation, because the legislation actually says we should be encouraging and aware of, and it does refer to gender equity along with other legislative requirements. So embedded in our processes, it's really ensuring that we have a full scan of all those elements before we're putting a recommendation forward.
Councillor Calvano.
Director, is there room for an appeal? Say the council wants to name a road by that name, but the state says, no, we're going to name it this way. Is there room for appeal?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there is room for appeal, but Councillor Calvano, we would have to form that case. Effectively, just to close out the process, when the state come back and say, right, we've gone through that process and this is what the name will be, it's really over to the local government authority to be applying that. In terms of, so if it's road naming, we then install signage, etc., go through that formal process. If we were to challenge it, that would be the time that we would need, but really it should have been identified through the process.
Thank you, Director.
Any further questions? Councillor Barber, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion for? Councillor Campbell?
Yes, yeah. I'm definitely for this. I'll be honest, I think there's enough duplication in government, state, federal and council as is, and I think as a council we don't need to worry about renaming roads at the moment, and we can concentrate on fixing them. I think that's what our constituents want us to do. Thank you.
Oh, he has plagiarised that. Any discussion against? Any further for? Councillor Barber, anything to close?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.5, extension of contract number 0423, provision of building services. Director Neeson.
Thank you. And through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to present this report on the extension of the contract for the provision of building services. So just quickly, council is required under the Building Act 1993 to appoint a municipal building surveyor of council to perform functions relating to the administration and enforcement of the Building Act and building regulations within the Shire. Traditionally, this function has been delegated to a building surveyor employed directly by Southern Grampians Shire. However, over the last few years, changes in both the private sector and traditional local government structures have necessitated the outsourcing of this function to make sure we can secure the licence qualification that we need just to ensure council is complying with its statutory requirements under the legislation. So GovSS is our current provider of this service. This contract is now proposed to be extended for a further 12 months just to maintain that continuity of service and compliance. But this extension also allows council to continue to pursue a collaborative procurement process that we're currently working through with other rural and regional local government authorities. And that's aimed at achieving long-term efficiencies in this space and also improving our service delivery. So this additional time will allow council to participate in this regional initiative while also ensuring we're meeting our statutory obligations. So council's recommendation has been brought before you for your consideration. Thank you.
The mover, Councillor Calvano.
Yes, I move the recommendation as a motion as written, Mr Mayor.
I have a seconder, Councillor Barber. Any questions of Director Neeson? Councillor Rainsford.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Do we have a mechanism to ensure that we have continuous improvement or improvement in the service and ensure that we're reviewing how that service is being delivered to the satisfaction of the applicants involved in the building services?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Absolutely, Councillor Rainsford. So there's a whole host of things we do across all our services to make sure both in terms of time of permits issues, etc., are being maintained and also looking at improvements. So yes, is the answer.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, Councillor Neeson, by looking at this just for our constituents, if we are employing someone full-time on a yearly basis to or going with this contract, we are saving ourselves money, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this is seen as a way of saving council money by going through this process, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you.
Councillor Manning?
Yeah, just in the report it states this approach provides the best value for council by maintaining service continuity while enabling internal staff to develop skills and qualifications over time. Does that mean our staff are learning from this external, or are they obtaining that qualification for future? Can you speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, we don't have anyone undertaking formal qualifications, but we do employ our own staff to help support the service. So, yeah, absolutely, what you're saying is correct, that they are able to learn through these people when they are in the office, etc., to be able to understand different things that the community might be raising that are coming through that then they're actually dealing with because they have the qualifications able to enforce or to make compliance under the Act.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Henry?
Could you just speak to how difficult it is to find a building surveyor, let alone have one come out to the regions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a lot of councils across Victoria have suffered in terms of being able to recruit staff in this space, so we're not the only council by any means, and that's why we're looking at this regional procurement collaboration. There has been some changes along the way, which has really in some ways priced what was traditionally a role within council out of the market. Council doesn't actually have the ability to be able to afford some of these services in its current structure. So that's why a lot of councils have gone down the track of looking at different ways of doing this. This is the example that we've done. But I should say that I think we're really excited by the opportunity, even coming from some of the shared services work we've done with other councils, to look at ways to try and continue to reduce this cost burden on council, because we do acknowledge it is quite high, but it is something that we actually have to provide. It's one of the very few services under the Act that we have to provide.
Councillor Henry?
Is there any provision, given that it's a legislative function required, is there any provision or funding from the state government to provide this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, there's no funding available to help offset or provide this service from the state government.
Surprise.
Any further questions? Councillor Calvano, you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, that the Southern Grampians Shire Council is required under the Building Act 1993 to appoint a municipal surveyor, and we've done that. And that's all that matters to this game. It's all actually in the executive summary and in the discussion. If you've got time to read it, that's what it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion for? Against? Councillor Calvano, nothing to close.
Nothing to close, Mr. Mayor.
Go to a vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.6, adoption of revised councillor expense policy. Director Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, the expense policy has been updated to reflect the changes made by the introduction of the Local Government Amendment, Governance and Integrity Act 2024, and Victorian Independent Remuneration. I always struggle on that one. Remuneration Tribunal. The policy was last adopted by Council in July 2020 and supports the requirements of Section 41 of the Local Government Act 2020 in relation to payments of allowances and reimbursement of expenses to councillors and members of delegated committees. It provides an overview of how Council provides resources and trainings to its councillors and members of delegated committees to ensure they carry out their functions and duties. Councillors, there's no material change to the policy, there's just a few minor changes to it. Councillors, the recommendation is before you for your consideration.
The mover. Councillor Manning.
I move that Council 1, adopt the councillor expenses policy, and 2, rescind the previous version of the councillor expenses policy.
Seconder. Councillor Henry. Any questions of Director Barber? Councillor Henry.
Not very well. Could you just detail, please, the the main changes with the revised policy?
Yeah, happy to, Councillor Henry. The changes that have been made is it includes reference to mandatory training under the definition section of the policy, which is new to the Act. The Mayor no longer has a corporate card, and this reference has been taken out of the policy. Inclusion of remote travel allowance. The remote area allowance only applies when the council travels more than 50 kilometres from home to an official meeting or function and not the return trip. The current allowance is equal to $48.90 per day or up to a maximum of $6,112.50 per annum. Conferences and training has been retitled to conferences and non-mandatory discretional training to highlight the differentiation between the annual mandated training as per the Local Government Act and the discretionary training that councillors have within their budgets they can use. And finally, the inclusion of annual mandatory professional development training. The local government governance and integrity regulations prescribe as a matter.
Councillor Manning.
Thank you.
All councillor expenses are publicly available for full transparency. Where can the community find those figures if they wanted to look them up?
Thanks, Councillor Manning. Yeah, a couple of parts that on our website, those details are listed. The other thing that is worth mentioning too is that the council allowances and expenses are reported each quarter to our Audit and Risk Committee as well for their overview.
Councillor Calvano.
I mean to say, Mr Mayor, what's caused this? What's caused that? Well, are we overspending? Are we overspending that the traveller from 1.8 or 2 kilometres cannot claim for the mileage to come to a meeting anymore? What's caused this? Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Councillor Calvano. Nothing that you're representing, it's just simply changes to the Act, and we had to change the policy to meet that Act. So that's what's been legislated from a state perspective, and we've then changed that accordingly.
Can we rebuff that? Can we go against the recommendation? No, it's a state law.
Unfortunately, no, Councillor, it's legislated.
Councillor Henry.
Sorry, I had a second part to my question really in relation to the changes. And it's again something that we see quite often in that it appears that the state is making legislative, there's my word, provision for remote councillors or councillors in regional areas. However, given that this is a budgetary item and councillor expense, does the state actually provide any support for regional communities to enact this legislation to help their councillors that live in remote and regional areas?
Councillor, thanks for your question. The short answer is no. So we have to fund that ourselves.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've been doing, especially the mandatory training, looking at doing it as a regional model, so that at least the expense is shared a little amongst a number of councils rather than each individual council having to do the same training, which councils have been able to attend over the last 2 years.
Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, so Director Barber, mandatory training. Can you explain that to people? What's mandatory training for our constituents?
Thanks for your question, Councillor Campbell. And without going into it line by line, the state has mandated through the Act just training that they believe each council will benefit from on a year-by-year basis, just to reinforce the legislative requirement that each councillor has to work under over the course of them being a councillor. So after a review that was done 24 months ago, Carly, I want to say, to the Act, that was brought in as a way of just reinsuring the community that councillors are given training to ensure that they understand the Act in which they work under and the regulatory environment in which they work within.
So, in reality, they're decided to go, you know what, we'll clip the ticket with kilometres and pay, but when people come on as councillors, they have 4 years, right?
Correct.
So you'd think 1 year of training would be fantastic, we know what's going on, then they decide to duplicate it, and there's a lot of trainers out there clipping the ticket over a 4 year period. So to me, that's excessive expense. but they don't mind doing that, but then pulling the kilometres paid to us as regional people. So it is interesting.
I'll take that as a statement rather than a question, Mr.
Yep.
Mayor.
Take it
Councillor,
as a statement. Thank you to the constituents.
Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Director Barber, this is probably just more from our information. Considering a couple of motions ago we rescinded some policies, is this not already, is if state government legislated, is this a state government policy that we're adapting, or is there slightly different ones depending on the local government area?
The policies are policy that council adopts and can have, I suppose, drafted to their area, but we've got to meet within that policy the Act requirements. So you might find that there's some differences between some councils, but each policy must be adopted in accordance with the Act.
Councillor Calvano.
I'm just wondering about the statutory training. What are the penalties if you don't do the statutory training?
In short, councillor, you don't get paid
For how long?
until you do the training.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lim.
Any further questions? Councillor Manning, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Nothing.
Any discussion for? Against? Councillor Manning, anything to close?
Nothing.
Go to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.7, Cavendish Hall Community Asset Committee minutes. Director Barber.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through you. In accordance with Council's governance rules and section 47(4)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020, approved minutes of community asset committees are to be reported to council meetings to ensure governance requirements and appropriate standards of probity are being met. Community asset committees are managed by our volunteers and operate under an instrument of delegation from the Chief Executive Officer. Councillors, you'll see in this particular report you've got the Cavendish Hall Community Asset Committee minutes. A couple of the highlights is that over the period they've managed to install an ambulance toilet to their hall, a new air conditioner has been installed, and there's a recap there of their expenses and also where their income's coming from, which I think it's great to see the local organisations that are using the hall as well. Councillors, the recommendations before you for your consideration.
Mover, Councillor Rainsford.
Yes, I'd like to move that the council receive the Cavendish Hall Committee as an asset committee for the meeting held for the 28th of October 2025. That's the report of that meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Barber. Any questions of Director Barber? Councillor Calvano.
Director Barber, who owns the hall? Duca or the Social Trust of the Grampians?
Southern Grampians Shire owns a hall, councillor.
Any further questions? Councillor Rainsford, you wish to speak to the motion?
I'll be brief. We depend on our volunteers, and it's good to see that their minutes don't have to be typed up and formatted. They can still be a very good, accurate record of the hard work that's done by the volunteers and the community organisations that are supporting the use of that local hall. It's our local hall, Lily Farm, and it's an excellent hall, and it's like this building. It's a memory of past years, past history, and a very solid building. It does need some more work on the front of it, though, actually, I was pointing out the other day. Congratulations to the community for their work here and the asset committee.
Any discussion for? Against? Councillor Rainsford, anything to close?
No.
Just go to a vote. Those in favour? Carried. Item 13, there's no notices of motion. Item 14, there's no urgent business. Item 15, Mayor, Councillors and Delegate reports. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope everyone had a good break. the main thing I want to say today, and I'll take my time because at the end of the day, I believe this is important. On the 27th, we were having a briefing. I left an item 5 on the 27th of January, this was, and there was a fire literally out the back of the homestead. It was a 46-degree day. Could have been catastrophic. 1,300 hay bales could have gone. Wool shed, hay shed, our house could have been burnt as well, so my wife and children had to get out quickly. Very, very lucky, but the only reason we were lucky is because of the CFA, and my hat cannot, like, I am just, yeah, it's unbelievable. It was an emotional day, but all I wanted to go in here tonight and say, I'm going to thank every single truck that turned up today, the Hamilton FCV, the Merino Group FCV, the 10 to 14B Platoon Commander, the Hamilton Pump Tanker, the Piat Olsen Tanker 5, the Wallasdale Tanker, the Australian Gum Tanker 1, the Branksholme Tanker, and also the Ultralight, the Morven Tanker, the Myman Tanker, the Conda Tanker Ultralight, and then there were independent. These are the people that have their trucks ready to go, and at any notice they will come and they will help their fellow colleagues. And that was independents: Graham Thompson, David Fenton, Jeff McAvale and Ben Glatz. It was one of those moments that we could have lost so much, but it was for the local community, the local CFA, that we come together in a time of crisis and we pat each other on the back and we're there for each other. So I wanted to say thank you to all of those people that attended, and I know that Rocklands also had a fire on that day. A couple of days ago we had one down in Wallasdale, so it's always constant. But to the CFA and to the people that are not funding the CFA because of political issues, I hope that we can really meet somewhere where the CFA are given the right funding, and the constituents of our shire and many others aren't also having to cop to pay for all that. So I want to thank all those guys that turned up, and we're very lucky. Thank you.
Councillor Barber.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I will just make it very brief because I'll provide the rest of mine in writing. But I'd just like to say I attended Tarrington and Penshurst Australia Day services, and they were fantastic. They were brilliant, really well run, great day, fantastic people, and I'll provide a more detailed one in writing. Thank you.
Councillor Rainsford.
Yeah, congratulations, Councillor Campbell, on that broad thank you to the services. Yeah. We've had a fire down at Conda. It was 6 weeks in the making after something was shoved into a gully. So, you know, and it's really important to know that everybody's going to turn up. So on the 10th, on the 12th of December, we had the Victorian Governor General Professor, the Honourable Margaret Gardner, visit, and we had a lovely reception here, a very useful reception here at the Dundas Chambers and Martin Hines Auditorium, and a formal reception at the Hamilton Gallery. And at the same day we had the Penshurst, we had our Shire staff Christmas celebration and the Coleraine Community Christmas Party, and all of those events were very well attended. 14th of December, attended a Christmas church service as part of the Footprints Choir at Glen Thompson, which has become an annual event for us, and we get marvellous hospitality and appreciate it, and congratulations on the near completion of the facilities alongside the Anglican Church. On the 15th of December, I attended the Padrina Park User Group meeting at Padrina Park Pavilion, and 17th of December we had a Rail Freight Alliance Finance Committee meeting online. And this year I've attended informally attended an Ansets Museum meeting with the volunteers at the Ballarat Road facility, and thanked them for their hospitality, which included lunch. And I only dropped in to check on their exhibits, but I got lunch and a very good informative meeting. And they're having their 90th celebration in a weekend of including displays. It's low key, but it's still fantastic, and they've They've got a barbecue out at the airport, and they've got their displays as usual, open up with a little bit of extra at their Ballarat Road Museum, and a selection of clippers and things like that out at the Hamilton Airport. And it's just this Sunday, the 15th. On the Australia Day, I attended a number of Australia Day ceremonies at Cavendish, Glen Thompson, and I went to attend the Breakstone one, which was actually cancelled due to the heat, which I didn't realise till I got there. But I did catch up with some other community members that turned up on the day. And congratulations to the volunteers, all of the volunteers and groups that got events and awards for Event of the Year, to the recipients of the council and community awards. I pass on my congratulations. And locally, we had Kay Edwards and Wayne Viewing were community recipients for awards for their work, which is quite extensive in the area. And congratulations to Ian Murray and the Glen Thompson community for their work on retaining and reopening their memorial swimming pool. And I look forward to a swim at the opening day this Saturday on the 14th. I would also like to acknowledge the work of many volunteers out at Glen Thompson, including resident and keen swimmer Jenny Rankin, who has helped me motivate me to get back into swimming again, along with some friends from Cavendish. The 27th of January we had a briefing and a fire that day, and the 3rd of February another briefing, and finally yesterday I attended the Hamilton Showgrounds User Group meeting at the Red Shield Hut, which was very well attended, and also then went back to attend the Cavendish Recreation Reserve Committee of Management meeting, and I'll see everybody on the other side.
Councillor Manning.
Yes, we had our last council meeting of last year on the 10th of December. On the 11th, I met with our CEO and Emma Keeley, our local state member, and we discussed our major upcoming projects coming into the election year, and also community concerns regarding the draft renewable energy zone over Canongabotong, which we had 3 presenters give a deposition at our December meeting, so we notified Emma of that. I also attended the formal reception at the Hamilton Gallery with a visit from Victoria's Governor. I enjoyed a nice summer break, and then back to Australia Day. I went out to Dunkeld in the morning, and congratulations to Pam Turner from Wildwood Wildlife Sanctuary, who was awarded the Dunkeld Citizen of the Year. And then I came back into the Hamilton Botanical Gardens and watched a heap of new citizens go through their ceremony. Congratulations to them. And also to Southern Grampians Shire Council Citizen of the Year, Ian Murray, and the other award winners. On the 3rd, we had a briefing with the community budget submissions, which was great. And then just coming up this Friday at 3 o'clock, there's a cultural opening of a new exhibition at the Hamilton Gallery, which I will attend, called Once Was. Looks to be a great exhibition. On Saturday, we have the opening of the new SES Dunkeld building. So I'll be attending that, and then off to the opening of the Glen Thompson pool. So it's going to be 27 degrees at the last forecast, so everybody come down, there'll be live music, barbecue, all the rest of it. Thank you.
Councillor Calvano.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I've submitted to the Government's Office where representation was taking place. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you. I have been pretty much out of the country on camp and other matters for quite some time, but I actually only wanted to focus on one thing tonight, and that was to remind families and young people in the area that if you have mental health issues or you have friends that have mental health issues, that you are not alone, and that I urge you strongly to go and find someone to speak to, particularly if you don't have a trusted adult in your life. Please ring the kids helpline, go into Headspace, find a teacher, but do not think that you're alone.
For me, just a couple of to note. First of all, Director Scanlon, for after 14 months our clock is working. Thanks, Rory. January 25, I attended the Rosalind Nolte Memorial Service at a Branks home, which was attended, I would suggest, by 100 or so, in remembering a tragic event from the early 70s. January 26, Australia Day at Coleraine. I'll just single out one recipient, Jackson Payne, who received the Young Citizen Community Recognition Award. Jackson is 10, and he spoke about how much he loves his community and how he was encouraging others to get involved. A real credit to the young man. Also, Australia Day in Hamilton. Congratulations again to Ian Murray on being recognised for all of his work in the Glen Thompson area as Southern Grampians Shire Council Citizen of the Year. February 5, Grangeburn Bowling Club had their breast cancer pink day. A very successful day, and a big congratulations for the club for running such a great event. I wish the Ansett Museum all the best with their event on Sunday, and the Dunkeld SES their event on Saturday, and the Glen Thompson community with the reopening of their pool on Saturday as well. It's been a tough road for many, so congratulations. And that's all from me. Just before we move into a confidential report, I thank all of those for attending in chambers this evening, and all of those for attending online. Thank you.